All right, we are live. Let us know,
Right on.
anybody in the comments that's watching, make sure the audio's okay. I'm going to check it on my phone and we'll go from there. So take it away, Chris.
Right on. Yeah, it looks like things are happening on the YouTube channel, so I'm just gonna run with it. Welcome everybody. Today is Wednesday, August 4th, 2021. This is the Permissionless Software Foundation Technical Steering Committee meeting, which we have every couple of weeks. My name is Chris Troutner. I am one of the founders of the Permissionless Software Foundation.
Take it away, Chris.
And yeah, Stoyan, do you want to give a brief introduction?
Yeah, my name is Stoyan Zhekov, and I am helping with maintenance of the JavaScript libraries for the PCF.
Go ahead, Aaron.
All right, my name is Aaron Shoemaker. I'm helping to put together the certification program for the PSF so that we can move people from a limited understanding to a very complex understanding of how all this stuff works with the blockchain.
Yeah, right on, right on. So these technical steering committees, we're not really big enough yet to have, it's modeled after other technical steering committees like the Node.js Foundation, and Protocol Labs has, and Filecoin has a similar governance structure, but we're not quite big enough to like spin off dedicated work groups. And so these meetings are really a chance for us to just celebrate the technical achievements that we've had over the last couple of weeks. And then, so we'll go through an agenda of those, and then we'll just open it up to a roundtable discussion to sort of talk about technical topics and news that's happening in the wider cryptocurrency space. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and bring up the agenda. And so for people who want to see this agenda now or in the future, we file all of our agendas on GitHub under the Permissionless Software Foundation group, and then the TSC repository for Technical Steering Committee. And you'll go to the Issues tab, and we file them as issues. And so this is issue number 14, today's date. And we'll also put a link to the YouTube recording in here. So we've gotten into a pattern the last few weeks where we're going to discuss the PSF core software, which is our REST API, JavaScript library, and then the front end web wallet. And then we'll start talking about other sort of bigger initiatives like the JSON RPC and the pay to write database, and then cover any sort of miscellaneous topics after that. And then we'll open it up to sort of a roundtable discussion. So let me just go through here, and you guys feel free to interrupt me at any time. That's the advantage of joining the Zoom call. But yeah, I'll just try and go through some of these updates. Right now, we've got myself and Daniel and Gary are two JavaScript developers that are sort of paid through some of these PSF budgets to do a lot of work on the core software and some of our initiatives. They're both in Venezuela, so it's great to be able to support developers in Venezuela. Daniel's been doing a lot of work on this core software. So this IPFS BCH wallet service is a way to give access to the Bitcoin Cash blockchain over IPFS, over the IPFS network. And the reason we want to pipe it over the IPFS network is it's highly censorship resistant. And so just to give an idea of sort of what this is, chat.fullstack.cash is a developer tool that we built. And when you bring it up, what it does is it spins up an IPFS node in the web browser, and then it reaches out to find other computers in a sort of subnetwork. And so you can see the list of the computers here. And so there's a few of these: BCH Wallet Service Demo, BCH Wallet Service DSL. It looks like two of them are up, but this is the idea, is being able to provide redundant access to the blockchain. So I'm going to get to this in a minute. We're also working on a wallet that would then connect to these services. And so by being able to provide redundant, censorship-resistant access to the blockchain, anyone running a wallet software or an app that interacts with the blockchain, it just has to find one of any of these service providers, that it can then begin consuming those services. And so the idea here is to make access to the blockchain robust and censorship resistant, and have like many service providers, and then consumers can just find and select one of many service providers. So the service provider is called IPFS BCH Wallet Service, and this is a link to the code repository if anybody wants to check it out. There's also an introduction video for this service at that repository. So we've got this deployed on, I saw 2 in that list. I thought there was a third one somewhere. So we're already setting up redundant versions, and anyone can set up their own copy of this and essentially, what do they call that? Resell act. So if you have an account at fullstack.cash, you can essentially use your account to resell that access over this. I mean, there's not a whole lot of consumers yet because this is all proof of concept, but that's the idea, is someone in America with a good internet connection to the blockchain can then offer those services to anyone else in the world over the censorship resistant IPFS network. And so that way we can all collaborate to make a robust connection to the blockchains. And we're going to do the same thing with the Avalanche blockchain and the eCash blockchain, once this code reaches a level of maturity. And so to mirror image that service provider, there's the PSF BCH wallet that I'm working on right now. And so that's like a consumer. So it's a command line wallet, and I'm porting a lot of, we have this SLP CLI wallet, and the Stoyan's worked on it, and I've worked on it heavily. It's sort of our go-to. It's like a hacker-friendly command line wallet, lets you rapidly prototype ideas. And so I'm porting a lot of that code into this PSF BCH wallet, but we're maintaining 100% code coverage as we do that, and it will primarily work over IPFS, or actually, I don't right now. I don't even have it working, so it can go over the normal REST API over HTTP. So this SLP CLI wallet will remain as our sort of sandbox or playground. It'll be like a really good place where people can prototype ideas, submit a PR if they want to come up with some good idea to get in there. The requirements will be much lower. We won't really worry too much about code coverage. But then the PSF BCH wallet will be a higher quality, 100% unit test coverage, and will consume these services over the IPFS network. And so anyways, that's sort of my vision for it that we're working towards. And we're also going to roll we have a bunch of command line apps sort of in the repository. And the other thing I want to do with this is roll a lot of that functionality in there. So being able to send end-to-end encrypted messages, send and receive, being able to upload files to IPFS to get them hosted and then pay for that hosting. These are all features that we have in other repositories, and I want to roll those all into this PSF BCH wallet.
So this is the SLP CLI. The SLP CLI wallet is a great wallet, and for those who are in the Telegram chat, I know there's been a lot of people that have saying, "How can I learn? What can I do?" And this is a great place to start. Download the SLP CLI wallet, start playing around. You don't have to do too much. You can open it up in Visual Studio Code and switch a few things around. And Chris has some great videos on that. That's how I actually first got it started. He's got videos on how to create tokens and how to create NFTs and how to send transactions. Play around, do those sort of things, and get used to it. And it kind of sounds like you're wanting the SLP CLI wallet repository to be more of a sandbox for incomers, and this PSF BCH wallet to be more the pristine gold standard. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's the way they're shaping up right now. Yeah.
So, and that's great, and I think this leads to the fact that wallets are going to become have more utility in the future. And encrypted messaging. Now your wallet app is a messaging app, you know, whereas before we were saying, how can we send cryptocurrency over our messaging app? Now it's saying, how can we send messages from our cryptocurrency wallet? And this is something we've talked about and we can talk about later, and I'll give you the floor back, is that wallets, I think, are going to become have more utility as media players, as art. They display art, as we've talked with the NFTs, stuff like that. I did just want to say to those in the Telegram, those in the PSF community, check out the Cly wallet. It is not as challenging as you think. I think that a lot of people go, oh, it's command line, I'm scared. Well, maybe you're not saying you're scared, but we get intimidated by command line. I do. It's not that difficult. And Chris has some great videos on his YouTube channel on how to use the Cly wallet and to create tokens, send transactions. And you don't even have to send them to anybody. You could create a secondary wallet and send them from one wallet to the other, and then just use the command line to check. So, all right, I'll give it back to you, Chris.
Okay, can I have also some words?
Mm-hmm.
I have questions and some thoughts. First, about the first IPFS BCH wallet service.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, in order somebody to provide this service, what he need to have on his side, a full BCH node or just access to REST interface, which he will repackage in RPC?
Yeah, good question, Stoyan. I'm glad you asked that. Both. The answer is both, or either or, really. So in order to deploy it, it's just a Docker container. In the README, it talks about how to deploy the production Docker container. So it's simply a matter of running a couple commands to build a Docker container and deploy it. And the only thing that you need is like a fullstack.cash account, which would let you resell that access. However, that's not very robust because fullstack.cash becomes the bottleneck there. So the idea is, if this tech catches on and we are able to develop a robust marketplace of people selling these services, it would be better for people to set up their own cash stack and not leverage fullstack.cash, so that these services actually are self-contained and redundant. But either system works. I wanted to make it easy for people to launch their own system, so they can just sign up for a fullstack.cash account and hopefully recoup some of that monthly cost by sort of reselling it through one of these service providers.
So what you're saying is, if you set up your own node, which you have Docker containers of on fullstack.cash, then you could run this yourself and not have to go through fullstack.cash.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be preferable.
Yeah. So the more nodes we have, the faster this is going to be. So essentially.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, so in order for me to run fullstack.cash, I have to pay professional cloud services. So hundreds of dollars a month go into maintaining that infrastructure. And it's also a very convenient way for the government to if they wanted to discourage people from using blockchain services and using the blockchain, it would be really easy for them to pass a law or go after, one way or the other, people like fullstack.cash offering REST API services. That's clearly an attack vector. But if people, it's much cheaper, even without that regulatory threat, even with everything being the way it is right now, in a perfectly free market, it's still much cheaper for people to, say, spend $300 or $400 on a desktop, which can run the entire cache stack and provide one of these services. And because it's over IPFS, all the networking goes away. They don't have to worry about port forwarding or registering a domain name or getting an SSL certificate. None of those things have to be done because it leverages IPFS. When this chat.fullstack.cash is a visual representation of what would happen with the Cly wallet, and these are going to move in lockstep. But essentially, what it's doing is you're a node on the IPFS network, and it's just finding these other nodes that are part of the subnetwork. And that is what replaces all of the conventional DevOps that would be involved in providing a service like fullstack.cash. And this just all happens automatically under the hood inside the Docker container, and the people running it don't need to understand it or think about it.
So is it possible to use an older computer to run the Docker container? I mean, I've got like a 2008 Mac Pro sitting beside my desk that I'm not using for anything. Be great to be able to fire this up and run a node off of that.
Yeah, definitely. When you start getting into the component parts of the, so reselling access to fullstack.cash is going to be the easiest with the lowest amount of requirements. But if you want to run a whole cache stack, and let me just to remind people what I'm talking about with that, if you go to fullstack.cash/cache strap, which is a play on the word bootstrap. This is what lets you bootstrap the cache stack. And these are all the Docker containers and pre-synced databases that you need. And so the cache stack, which is illustrated at fullstack.cash, is composed of a full node, some indexers, and then the REST API. And in this case, you actually don't even need, I think you still need to run the REST API, but these are all available in Docker containers. And so this is what you would run on an old desktop. And the full node requires the processing power is not a significant factor when you're running at home. Hard drive space is really cheap. You can get like a USB hard drive, especially if you start with one of these pre-synced databases and you're not syncing from Genesis, the performance of the hard drive is not critical. It's usually memory is the bottleneck. And so a full node takes about 2 gigabytes of RAM. And Electrum-X also takes about 2 to 4 gigabytes of RAM. And then SLPDB, that's really the bottleneck. That can require up to 32 gigabytes of RAM.
Holy.
Yeah. This is one of the problems with SLPDB. And so that would be one problem with running it on older hardware. But it's possible to run a white label version of SLPDB or a whitelist version of SLPDB. Yeah. So you only provide services to selected SLP tokens, not every SLP token in existence. And that greatly decreases the requirements, the hardware requirements.
So as far as whitelisting, one good like example of this, if I'm to run a whitelisted SLPDB, I might go around to local businesses and help them to generate tokens for their services, and they're the tokens I whitelist. So I'm the guy, and maybe I get a few other people in my city that run this whitelisted database, and so the businesses start using the tokens. We're not really concerned with all the tokens in existence. We're just concerned with the tokens within our community that help our economy to run.
Yeah, you nailed something. I would love to help other PSF community members set up a service like that, where you could generate the token for them, upload the artwork, and add the token to the SLPDB whitelist, and then possibly even set up a post office. Those are all really valuable things that any developer could do. And if they leverage the sort of whitelist SLPDB, the hardware requirements are not significant, and it's a really valuable service. There's literally companies coming in every day to some of these Telegram channels asking for one of those 4 services, and if they ask for one, it'd be really easy to sell them the other 3.
Yeah. So anybody that's in the PSF community, this would be a great business idea for you. I'd like to get it fired up too when I get time. It's all about finding time nowadays, because as we know, time is speeding up, apparently. So,
as you get older.
Yeah. Well, as you get older, or maybe it's just a quantum thing. Who knows? They turned on CERN, so it's just all spiraling from here. All right. We ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's go ahead and move down. Oh, go ahead.
Stoyan.
So my next question is about the PCF BCH wallet. So now the name was a little misleading. I was thinking, okay, it's just a PCF token to BCH
No.
client application, but from what I see in the sources, the main difference is there will be a different backend adapters. So you can have the same commands, but the backend can be IPFS or REST or whatever.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought this up. So it's still very much in flux, but yeah, there's a daemon command. And so the way it differs from SLP CLI wallet is that you would run like the daemon command in one window, and that's what spins up an IPFS node and then connects to those other nodes I showed in the other window, and so that establishes a connection with a wallet service, and then you can run the other commands, which are pretty much just ported over from SLP CLI wallet, but it basically what it does is it creates that daemon creates a IPFS full node, and then it has a REST API with one endpoint, and that's what the rest of the wallet commands will interact with. Is they'll call that local REST API call, which will then push a JSON RPC command out to IPFS, out to the wallet service.
Okay.
And so that's fundamentally nuts and bolts. Talking about nuts and bolts, fundamentally, that's the difference. That's the difference between the two applications. Whereas SLP CLI wallet just uses a REST API and reaches out to the fullstack.cash service. And you could, if someone set up a similar service, you could have it reach out to a different service. But whereas BCH or PSF BCH wallet will use the JSON RPC over IPFS. And we're also like, the thing I want to do with it is really consolidate. That's the word I'm looking for. Consolidate all the various services that we've built over the last year or two into this one thing. So not just BCH and SLP tokens, but creating NFTs, uploading files to IPFS, being able to check if someone sent you an encrypted message, being able to send encrypted messages. So make it more of a full suite of commands. So right now I just have a few wallet commands in there for like creating a wallet, deleting a wallet, and updating a wallet. And they're prefixed with that'll be like wallet-create or wallet-list or wallet-update. And so what I'm envisioning is having more commands like message.send or message-send, message- check for new messages, and then like IPFS-upload, IPFS-download for IPFS upload and download, things like that, like sort of have a list of clearly defined commands that have like just to roll. We have all this code sort of in all these other repositories. I'd really like to consolidate them into this one command line app. And this is mirroring the inspiration for this is coming from Protocol Labs and IPFS and Avalanche. They all are taking this approach where their reference implementation is a command line app, and then anything they do like alternative programming languages or graphical user interfaces, those are all like secondary implementations. And so by doing that, because the command line app is just one step removed from your core code, it's very easy. Like if that breaks, then there's something wrong with your core code or your reference implementation, and that needs to be prioritized. But if that's all working great and someone's having a problem with one of these secondary implementations, it provides this sort of clear line for debugging any given problem. Is the problem in our reference implementation, or is the problem outside of our reference implementation? So it just makes collaboration easier, and it helps separate concerns and therefore improve like maintenance and quality control.
Seems smart. Seems like a good way to do it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, this was all my questions. So yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and move on to the rest of the agenda here. So yeah, we've already kind of been breaking into this JSON RPC over IPFS and the pay to write database. It's starting to become like really obvious how this is starting to integrate into our core software. Daniel and I, over the last couple of weeks, we completed a major refactor to the IPFS pay to write database service. So this is another service that's offered over this IPFS network. So I think we've got This one, PDX, because that's a computer in Portland. Pay to write database, Decatur, that's here on the island with me. And pay to write service demo, that's in the cloud on a cloud computer somewhere. And so we've got 3 instances, 3 different nodes of this pay to write database. And so it's a database with blockchain-like properties. So each one of these nodes is a redundant copy of the database. And whenever someone submits a piece of data to the database, they're all going to work together to update their own internal state, but they each maintain their own copy of the database. And they agree using consensus rules and CRDTs. I don't really need to get into that, but the important takeaway there is that, like, if one of these computers, if one of these databases gets taken down for whatever reason, maybe it just goes down, or maybe there's a malicious hacker or a state actor. It doesn't matter, because each node lives independent and maintains its own independent copy of the database. And as we provide more valuable services like Tor list, which I'm going to get to in a minute, those will each, the more nodes we have on the internet having independently replicated copies of the database, the more censorship resistant it becomes. And that's one of the main values of this database. Like, anyone can create a database and stuff, but this becomes a common repository where people can put stuff where it will be protected from censorship. And it's a valuable service, so it's worth paying for, paying a transaction fee. And then those transaction fees go to improve the software. And so you get this closed loop virtual circle. So that's the whole idea behind the pay to write database.
Yeah.
So we've set up an API. So for people who want to immediately get started, like putting data in this database, start hacking with it, we've got API documentation. That's for the service provider. Yeah, well, it's at pay to write P2DB, pay to write database -docs.fullstack.cash. This has both the JSON RPC and REST API documentation. So if there's any developers watching this and they just want to start, they don't really care about the mechanics, they just want a database to put data in and get data from, it's up and running. Everything's available, and you can access it at p2wdb.fullstack.cash. And this is at the same
lower third here for people.
Perfect.
Pete, does that look right? p2wdb-docs.fullstack.cash.
Yeah. So
Okay.
really, you can go to either one. Dash docs are just without the dash docs. This is the actual API REST that you can put this and make a REST API call to this, and that will let you interact with the database. And so we'll maintain this conventional REST API access the same way that you would interact with any other REST API on the internet. But you can also just download the code, run the Docker container if you want to replicate the database locally on your computer. And by doing that, you're helping the rest of, not only do you get direct local access to the database, which is much faster and independent of any sort of internet issues, you're also helping strengthen the network, just like running a full node in Bitcoin, where you're replicating a copy of the data of the blockchain in that case, and helping to seed that data to other nodes on the network. So this is an interest, like, this is one of these things that, like, you can go down and have a discussion about, like, databases with blockchain-like properties versus blockchains with database-like properties. It's interesting trade-offs between the two concepts, but this is a database with blockchain-like properties.
Well, it's not that you can't have both. This is the thing, people can often get into trouble when they think things have to be one way or the other way, and there's no in between. And so this is going to be a solution for certain things on the market that blockchain is not. We've talked for a long time about the data limitations of blockchains,
Mm-hmm.
and even if you go super huge with, really big blocks, you still have some data limitations, you still have some speed limitations. And the idea of marrying the two that we've been working on and talking about, I think, is a great solution to that sort of thing. So,
Chris, you can just call it DB3, like Web3.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about Web3 like blockchain, so it can be DB3.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I know I've been kind of playing with some of those. So, I very
There is
much
DB
feel like this does represent the like Web 3.0, but that coin's already kind of been taken, or that term's already been taken to mean like direct blockchain access. So I don't know. I don't know if people. I like that idea. I like where you're going with there, Stoyan. I'm not sure if everyone's gonna like that idea.
No, I'm not sure too, because I think the IBM have DB2, so maybe they can be offended. Maybe they already have DB3
Yeah,
ready. So
it's a little premature to start calling it DB4.
Yeah.
dude,
But I do want to do a YouTube video sort of explaining like my conceptualization of history and these terms Web 1.0, Web 2.0, Web 3.0, and sort of point to specific technological things in history that I think define these terms. And so I'd like to do a YouTube video just sort of communicating my view on those things.
it's a little hard when you're in it, like, and it's happening, to call it, and it's a lot easier to look back and go, oh yeah, that was the point, so who knows exactly. We just know that the internet is developing and changing, and we are a part of it. We want to be a part of it. We want you to be a part of it. Those of you that are listening, those that are in the Telegram channel, lots of good ideas are coming out there, and this pay to write database, it solves a hole in the market. It really does. And but it's about getting people to understand this. This is another challenge. I work in the 360 and VR world, and getting people to understand how this is relevant to them is difficult at times. And then all of a sudden it clicks and they go, oh, I get it now. I understand how this works. And it's the same with any new technology. You're going to have to, there's this understanding hurdle you have to get over with a lot of people. And so there's going to be people out there that go, well, why should I use this? And as opposed to, cloud services. And this is, you've got some answers already. You have censorship resistance. You have the speed of the IPFS network. And like you said before, Chris, IPFS is as slow as it's ever going to be right now.
Yeah.
Unless a bunch of people just stop using it, but that doesn't look like it's going to be the case.
I've noticed an incredible performance increase since now that I have these redundant copies of the pay to write database and the BCH wallet service running. Now that I have more nodes in the network, like before the startup time was like 30 seconds. Now it's like 3 seconds. Like when you load chat.fullstack.cash, like it can come up really, really quick. It's much faster with the command line app than it is with the web app. But yeah, it's the more nodes that participate improve the performance for everybody else.
And this is the same with the pay to write database. And you're talking about running we were talking about running nodes and whitelisting SLP databases. You could be running a pay to write database within your town, within your community, and have several other people that are running redundant databases, which are going to make things very fast for where you are and what you're using it for. And there's that term a long time ago, think global, act local, and that's kind of the same thing. We're not saying we're going to wall off everybody from the rest of the world, but it does make sense to have certain things. If it's the economy in, say, Chicago, it makes a lot more sense to have databases in Chicago that deal with Chicago businesses, and they're storing their stuff on there. And going from there, whether it's the information in the pay to write database or it's the SLP tokens, which will probably also leverage the pay to write database, for information, and especially when you get into the mutable ideas and adding information to them. Correct?
Yeah, you're certainly touching on sort of some of the long-term goals that I'd like to achieve with this pay to write database. Because the fee to write to the database is paid in a token, that means that these databases are natively work with community currencies. So in our case, it's the PSF token because that's our community. And so, but this is just code, so it can be forked and it can work with any token. So I love what you said about thinking globally, acting locally. If there's any community of any kind anywhere that is like, oh, we should have a database in common, you can obviously you can use our pay to write database, but if there's some tech people in there, or like someone in Chicago business owners, if there's enough money and technical expertise available there, they can certainly create their own token, create their own database, find ways to have that interact with the pay to write database if that's what they want, but that's totally optional. But the point here is that this is essentially a database for local community at the end of the day.
Well, you said something before, and you wrote that short story about the guy creating a Craigslist-like app. I mean, this is, again, a perfect thing for something like this. I envision somebody can create this app. It'd be great, like a food list app where, and how I got it was, I was like, I'd like some fresh farm eggs. Don't know exactly where to get them right at the moment. Wouldn't it be nice if there was an app in which farmers could, do their produce, but then you take it a step further and you say, well, everybody's got gardens. Maybe they could post, I've got extra tomatoes, I've got extra cucumbers. And then you get down the line to, how about these old ladies who have recipes for huge families, and they could make some extra money by saying, I'm going to make lasagna and I've got 5 dinners. And then you're going to work and you're like, I'll take one of those dinners. And then you would buy the dinner from them. And so a database like this would be really good because, like, how do you monetize something like that? It's like Craigslist. How does Craigslist really monetize itself? It doesn't. It really keeps things super simple, and it's not a great looking website. It's still up, not a great looking website. So like this could be a great way, like, okay, I'm going to pay to write my post on I've got fresh farm eggs. It cost me this token, and guess what? People could probably use that token to buy the eggs. And that sort of thing. So that's just one example where this could be used.
Yeah, when talking to a non-technical audience about these ideas, the two big use cases I think this technology could apply for, and I hope to see soon, is decentralized Craigslist and a decentralized exchange. Those are the two, like, and there's a lot of money in both of those ideas. And so if for a non-technical person who doesn't care about the technology, they just want to know what can you do with it. That's what you can do with it. We could build a decentralized version of Craigslist, and it's perfect for building a decentralized exchange.
Yeah, exactly.
So just one last item here on the pay to write database. So another thing I'm hoping to get started in the next 2 weeks is a block explorer. So anybody who's worked with blockchains, they probably know like explorer.bitcoin.com for the Bitcoin Cash Explorer, and BTC as well. And then like Avalanche has their own block explorer at explorer.avex.network. Most blockchains have a block explorer. They're not really considered like production ready if they don't. So we're going to do a similar thing for this pay to write database, and that's probably what's actually going. Well, we'll probably do explorer-p2wdb.fullstack.cash or something. But what it'll do is it'll show just like a blockchain, it'll show the latest like 50 entries. We don't have blocks, we just have entries in the database. And it'll just show like the timestamp of like the last 50 entries, and then you can click on one and drill down and see what kind of data is in there. If it's clear text, it's also totally possible to add encrypted data into the database, in which case you wouldn't be able to see very much. But yeah, just allowing people to sort of visually explore the database in real time. So I think that'll be pretty exciting to have that,
That'll be cool.
and
Very
a
cool.
very useful tool for other developers who want to get started on this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so just to wrap up the agenda with some of these more miscellaneous items. Yeah, we're working on Tor list, and people can see that by going to torlist.cache. It's not functional yet. There's just the visual elements there. It doesn't really do anything, but it gives you an idea. And there is this developer documentation, and I have a link here in the agenda. If you go to the Tor list API, this is the older repository that we have archived. There's a link to the developer documentation. I still need to port that over into the IPFS Tor list service, which is the new repository that will replace it. But this is leveraging the same technology as the pay to write database. It's gonna go over IPFS. And one of the images I wanted to point out was this one. This is essentially how Tor list is going to work, where at the top is torlist.cache, the actual web page. So you would go there. And what Tor list is it's a list of websites on the Tor network, on the IPFS network, and on the clear web. And it's a place where people can advertise those websites and promote them. And it's sort of community controlled, where you can categorize them. And so if someone wants to find like a decentralized exchange, or a place to buy unpasteurized milk, or whatever service that you could offer, that you want to.
God forbid the unpasteurized milk. God forbid.
I know. I love using that as an example. But anyways, so this is roughly how it works.
I got a guy.
Oh yeah, okay. But this is how it works in the image here, where there's the front end, and you pay a little Bitcoin Cash to add your entry for any website that you want to advertise to the pay to write database. And then through a webhook, the pay to write database updates the Tor list API database, which is more like a local version. And then that updates the web page in the front. So this technology works together with the pay to write database. And so that's largely like the changes that we're making right now.
I was just going to ask that, and you answered my question. If it uses the P2WB.
Yeah, and this is really a precursor to that decentralized Craigslist. Like Tor list is the technology that's going into Tor list is exactly the type of technology that would need to be developed to create a decentralized Craigslist.
Yes.
And so you can think of the Tor list as just like a Craigslist that's focused on advertising web pages, but you could easily just make it a little more general, and then you'd have Craigslist. So yeah, pretty happy with our progress there. It's going well. And then Gary is sort of our resident Avalanche blockchain expert. And so as we develop out SLP Cli Wallet and PSF BCH Wallet, he's been working on Avex Cli Wallet, which is up and functional. I've been using it pretty heavily this week. It has all the same basic functionality. You can create an HD wallet. You can send Avex. You can send tokens on the Avalanche network. And what he's working on right now is a create token command. So you can create new tokens on the Avalanche network. And then both of these commands have a command for the token bridge. So you can send a token between the Avalanche and Bitcoin Cash blockchains using these two command line wallets. And there's an asterisk there. It doesn't just work out of the box. You have to set up a bridge for your token. But in terms of like, if someone wants to set up a bridge for their token so that they can transfer tokens between the blockchains, all the code is here, and you can reach out to us on our Telegram channel, and we'll point you to the code, and some assembly required, but everything's there. It is working. I just got a bridge set up for a test token this last week, so I'm familiar with the setup process. It's not easy. You need to be a JavaScript developer because the code's still pretty rough, but it is working. And these command line wallets provide, once you get the bridge set up, these command line wallets have a very convenient command that other people can use to send tokens across the bridge.
So first step for some of the people that are on the PSF, wondering how to do things, looking at for how to do things. Again, SLP Cli Wallet. Go to the SLP Cli Wallet, download it, and you can learn how to do that from the command line. Not very hard, and you do need to install Git if you don't have Git, and you can use a Git clone to clone it from the repository, or you can just download it as a zip file and then open it up from the command line as well. Create an SLP token with it, right? First step, create an SLP token. There is your token. And now you can download this repository and you can start playing with setting up a bridge for that particular token and then send it to yourself. But step one is, I think there's a lot of people out there still that haven't taken the time to download the SLP Cli Wallet and create a token for yourselves. And it's really, really not that hard. It's not as intimidating as you think. So you don't need to know a ton of JavaScript to create the token. And you just need to know enough about a code editor and follow Chris's videos where he gives very clear details on how to create that token. So then make a bridge.
I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here, Aaron.
All right.
And maybe we can get, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so that wraps up our agenda. And yeah, thank you for all the echoing the sentiment there, Aaron. I think those command line wallets, they're an excellent way for people to get started with the code, to not be so intimidated, because you can immediately have some feedback. Like every command in those command line wallets are self-contained. So there's one JavaScript file that contains everything about that command. And so you have the command line wallet and you can just start using it. You can just start interacting. Like it's very quick to be like, oh, that didn't work. And there's a help, and you can read the help and like adjust. And it's a very, very fast feedback loop to like learn. And then you still don't understand the code, but at least you have a command line app that can do these sort of blockchain based things that you want to do. And then from there, it's a natural step to like look at that one file that has all the code about that command if you want to get a little deeper.
Well, and I think a lot of people get intimidated because there's no GUI for the command line, of course, because it's command line. But you're really just CDing, like literally typing in CD and change to a directory. So wherever you download that directory to, keep that in mind, because that's your file path, and you can CD to that file path. And once you get there, if you press dot and you have like Visual Studio Code, I don't know if it works the same for Atom, but you press dot and hit enter, it will pop up all of that code, all the files in Visual Studio Code, and you can look at it. And it's really, really easy to then edit what you need to in the right JavaScript file, save it, and then go back to your command line and hit npm start or npm run or node run, depending on what you're running. Again, look at the JSON, right? That'll, when you open that file in Visual Studio Code, and maybe this is something that you and I should do a video on, Chris, for people. When you open that file in Visual Studio Code, look at the JSON document. It will tell you what npm commands you can use to run those files. And then once you know those commands, you can alter the file, save them. And that command line is going to take those files that you've now changed. So whatever you need to change to do a token, whatever wallet address you need to change, anything like that, you change it, you save it, you're back in your command line, npm run or npm start. You've created your token, or you've sent your token, or you've done anything in the command line. That's what makes it really, really easy and less intimidating.
So what Aaron just described is the workflow for doing like rapid prototyping.
Yeah. I mean, can you do that in Atom? Like go from the command line and hit a certain thing and open up Atom?
You probably can. I'm just an old school coder, and so I don't like all those. I don't like my text editor to be smarter than I am. I just want a text editor, and if it highlights, if it does syntax highlighting, like that's all I need. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. So, and if you do VS Code, you can also run a live server for people that don't know. You can a terminal from VS Code if you want to. So you don't even have to have a second command line window, but I like to use Bash for Windows, Git Bash. It's basically like Linux types of command line, so you don't have to memorize all the stupid window commands. God, I'm not a PowerShell fan, I'll tell you that. But you can have a terminal in your VS Code. I think you can do it with Atom, and then you can also run a live server. So say you're messing with chat.fullstack.cash or the fullstack.cash wallet. You've downloaded that, you've opened it up in your code, you're changing things around, you're adding a plugin, maybe taking away a plugin, maybe you're changing colors to tie-dye, who knows. And you can literally go run live server and it'll pop up in the browser you choose, whatever browser you want to choose, Brave or Chrome or whatever. And you can test it right there. So I know there's a lot of intimidation with people, and I just want to get you over that hump. I mean, I'm not an expert, but once I started learning these things, I said, okay, I can start playing around with this. I can play around with the Cli wallet. And a lot of that goes back to your videos, Chris. I watch your videos and I was like, oh, this makes sense, and understanding. And I'll say one more thing and then I'll be done. Go literally look at the code and look at where the code connects, because code is written in pieces, especially the way that Chris does it. He writes a lot of pieces that connect to each other, so you can take them in, take them out, and look at them. And so look at that code for those of you that are wanting to get in this and say, okay, this piece of code does this, and then you open up the main JavaScript file and you say, it says import whatever was this other piece of code. Oh, when I import that, it's everything that's over here in this other file. And so when you're looking at what that function does, anytime that function comes up in that main JavaScript file, you can go back to that original file and go, okay, yeah, this is what the function does. And that helps you get a better understanding. And sometimes it's just taking a couple hours to do that, every day or every other day to look at that stuff.
Yeah, I think if someone's trying to figure out how to approach this stuff in the first hour, figure out how to install Node.js, because that will also install npm, and then go to npmjs.com, and now all of a sudden you have, by installing Node.js, you have access to these npm libraries, and they're like Lego blocks. Like now you can start building stuff just by assembling Lego blocks, figuring out how to assemble Lego blocks.
Yeah.
And then the third thing, so first thing, install Node.js. Second thing, go explore nodejs.com or npmjs.com. The npm repository. And then the third thing is learn about the package.json file. That's where everything starts when it comes to Node.js. The package.json file it describes everything that the program needs to know. And if you learn how that file is put together and what the different things in it mean, then you have everything. You at that point you really have everything, and you have you now like know how to figure out anything that you need to figure out.
If we're going to use the Lego blocks analogy, the JSON file is the Lego instruction manual you always throw out and then start filling the blocks yourself. But no, it's kind of like the instruction manual. And Node is very easy to download. You can go to the site and literally click download, and then it'll have an installer package for you. So even if and you can install it from the command line too, but if you're hesitant, you can download their installer and you'll be fine. Most people you will want to install Git too, because that makes it really easy to clone repositories instead of downloading them as zip files and moving them around or whatever. Once you get used to command line, you can just open up the folder that you want to download this stuff into and say git clone, whatever the repository is, and it'll clone it to that folder, and then you can start working. So that's another thing that you'll want to do if you want to get started with this.
Well, Stoyan, it's time for my favorite time of every meeting. What's captured your interest?
I was too busy in work, but there's one interesting. I'm not sure that interesting, but Protocol Labs they created Web3 storage
Yeah, I've
site.
been checking that out too.
Yeah, it seems interesting. It's more general than NFT storage or something. It's not specifically for NFT. It's for storing stuff on Filecoin. So
Right.
it seems interesting.
One of the things that really I want to dig into, because I think it could inform, I've taken this path with the jot token, but there's some friction there, and the way that they did it is you sign up for an account, and if you already have a GitHub account, it's like a 2-click process, and then you get an API key, and you have up to 1 terabyte of storage for free. You don't pay for anything, and so you just add this API key when you make a call to their REST API, and that's what, and you can just upload data to Filecoin and IPFS for free up to 1 terabyte, and yeah, and so they just track it with the API key. So what I really want to do, I mean, that service is cool. If you're a developer, that should have just sort of piqued your interest. But what I want to understand is the actual workflow there with the API key, how they revoke API keys, how they track API keys, because I think there's lessons there for me to learn and incorporate into fullstack.cash and some of these web services that I'm trying to build.
Yeah.
Other interesting stuff was Smart BCH. They have the mainnet last week. So, do you planning to do something with Solidity or something?
I'm glad you brought that up. I just have not had time to go down that rabbit hole, but I really want to figure out how to attract more developers into this PSF community that have Solidity experience. And yeah, I want to start playing with because now we have Smart BCH, which is an EVM compatible sidechain to Bitcoin Cash. So yeah, that's definitely worth exploring. I don't know I doubt there's anything at this point where you could say bring an SLP token to Smart BCH and back. That would be interesting. But Avalanche has that. They have their C chain, their contract chain, which is an EVM compatible chain. And they now have a way to take a token on the X chain, which runs more like Bitcoin Cash, bring it across to the P chain or the C chain and interact with a smart contract, and then bring it back around to the X chain. And they have commands for that. And so that's, in my mind, that's like the next logical step for Smart BCH, is to build a bridge where you can bring an SLP token over to the side chain and back. And I love it's, it's these patterns that I focus on, is like, once we can do that, once we have this sort of equivalent functionality and workflows across chains, it's going to be really powerful. And it's going to be easier for us to build business tools that sort of abstract away all the blockchain specific stuff. And it's just like, okay, well, now you have a token, and like you can exchange it like money and low transaction fees, and then you want your token to like interact with some sort of smart contract over here. Okay, so you bring it across and it interacts, and you bring it back, and like that's going to be the general workflow. Like that's a general pattern and the general trend where everything's going. And then the actual blockchain that you're using, like in terms of the end user, they don't need to know that. They don't need to care about that. And I think that's the way things are going. And I think that, that's how I'm trying to position the code that I write, is this next the next, like riding a wave as a surfer. Like I'm trying to paddle in front of the wave that's behind me so that I can ride it when it finally reaches me.
Now, we talked about this a little bit, about this idea of giving people individuals the ability to create currency. And this idea of like, if we truly want a free market of currency, maybe the next step is tokens, and people being able to create tokens for themselves and trade them uninhibited, right? Mm-hmm. And the tokens could be based on blockchains, they could be blockchain adjacent, they could be, but this idea that if you get to that point, it becomes really uncensorable because if millions of people are creating currencies and finding different ways that we're not even going to think about to use those currencies, like we talked about before, friendship token or whatever, where it's like, I do a favor for you and you give me a friendship token that I could redeem within our friends group to have somebody come help me move. Right. Something like that, where it's like, it removes friction. You don't have that guy that just, takes from the group and never gives back, that sort of thing. Smart BCH. I think I'm out of the loop. Is this a split from BCH? Is it a completely new blockchain? What's going on with that?
It's a side chain, so it's like its own blockchain, and then it has an interface with the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. So, and that's the thing. So they've had a testnet up and running, but the thing that they've been struggling with for the last 3 months, I think, is figuring out a really good way to tie the side chain in with the base chain, with the Bitcoin Cash blockchain.
Yeah.
And that's what they just launched in the last week. Was this way to basically, you send some Bitcoin Cash, and I might be getting this wrong because I haven't looked at it myself, but I believe the way it works is you send it, there's an address, you send Bitcoin Cash, and then the Smart BCH, which is the native currency on the Smart BCH blockchain, appears at an address on that chain. And so what happens is, like, it's running all these like Ethereum Solidity contracts, and periodically a miner on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain will anchor that blockchain into the Bitcoin Cash blockchain by including like an op return or a hash or something.
Is it running the contracts on Ethereum?
No, not on the Ethereum network, but any Solidity contract that could run on Ethereum will run on this.
Oh, so it's
basically they have a compatible EVM machine, which means when you send something to address, it will do something. We'll start a little program and generate some output. So this EVM is compatible with Ethereum. So it's not Ethereum blockchain, it's their chain, but if we create the contract, same contract can be run also in this smart blockchain, smart BCH blockchain. So for example, so DEXs which are created until now, IRC20 tokens, stuff like this one, they can be bring to this smart BCH, and like Chris mentioned, periodically they will put something on the real BCH chain, like the transactions, how they go, which address receive what. They will maybe convert it to UTXOs, or I don't know how, and put them on the real blockchain.
So the buzzword to listen for is EVM. That means Ethereum virtual machine.
Yeah.
And so you get these EVM compatible chains. So any smart contract, which is typically written in Solidity, there's a couple other programming languages. It's like JavaScript Solidity.
Yep.
And so if you build it and you can run it on Ethereum, now you can take that same code, you can run it on Smart BCH, you can run it on the Avalanche C chain, you can run it on the Binance Smart chain. The same code will run on all these different chains. And then the next logical step is to start making these chains intercompatible. So Avalanche is on, I think, their second generation of bridge between the Avalanche C chain and the Ethereum chain. So you can bring an ERC20 token across the chains. And then a guy on Twitter I follow daily, shoot, I'm having a brain fart. Connor Daly. He actually just had a tweet on how to write a smart contract that resolves to the same address on all chains. And so the smart contract, you load it to Ethereum, you're going to get an address for that contract. And then normally if you uploaded that same code on, say, Smart BCH, you're going to get a different address. But there's a way to write these contracts so that they get the exact same address on each chain. And so that's what allows you to like send a token across the bridge and then send it to the same address on the new chain and interact with the same contract on that chain.
Wow, that's really cool. I had no idea that Smart BCH was going on, and maybe they want to implement some pay to write database to help them out.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to see, just all the different things. It's the depth and the breadth, right? Like this is what's so encouraging to me when, like, at the same time, you and I, Aaron, we're in the U.S., but and so I'm greatly concerned by some of the news I've been hearing about some of the very poorly thought out legislation around blockchain stuff that's getting talked about in Washington D.C. and might be getting pushed into some of these infrastructure funding bills and stuff.
Yep.
But as discouraging as that is, it also just seeing all this development and all these different directions, and then but having sort of these coherent patterns, like being able to see how they all kind of tie together, and it just makes me feel really optimistic that whatever they do in Washington D.C., it's not going to stop the innovation. It's not going to stop what's going on. If you can follow the tech, I don't really think there's much to fear about the law.
So much is happening and so much is moving so fast. That's what's really nuts. Like, I can't keep up with everything, I doubt you can. We got Story in here that's like keeping us up on the NFT world and everything that's going on. There's so much that's going on. It's like they're trying to grasp sand and it's slipping through their fingers, and all this is moving so incredibly fast. And that's part of the reason that, we talked about giving people the ability to create their own currency tokens that they use in their own transactions and trading. When you do that, things just radically change. And this idea that you can now write Solidity, if you're a Solidity programmer, now you have more options. That's great. That's great. Mm-hmm. If you're going to make NFTs, you could make them on Bitcoin Cash or Avalanche, and now you've made a cheaper NFT. That's awesome as well. And so it's, I do hear people out there that they get scared. They think that cryptocurrencies will be shut down, or even the internet will be shut down. And I would say there's a lot of people working that we're not aware of. And, we're working here. A lot of other people are working, and things are a lot more complex than they realize. And people are working for what we're saying, uncensorable technology, permissionless software.
Yeah, and to add to that, I have a little bit of news to share that I've been following pretty closely. Shapeshift, the company that they started out as a very simple service back in 2017, 2016, 2017, that would just very easily let you convert from one cryptocurrency to the other, and that's the whole thing. And there was no KYC. It was intended to be very low friction. Well, in 2018, 2019, their legal counsel was like, what you're doing is actually a regulated service, and you need to apply by the regulations. And so Eric Voorhees, the CEO, who's a Bitcoin OG, one of the earliest people in the Bitcoin space that I followed, he was very upset by this, but he needed to do what he had to do, and the best and at the same time, it's pretty obvious that he's operating under a gag order. So because oftentimes he gets asked questions and he's like, I can't talk about that, and that's the only response he can give. And so he's been on this like quest to find a way out from under the thumb of the regulators, and so they are now, Shapeshift doesn't actually custody anything. They're just a piece of software that helps people interact with decentralized exchanges like Uniswap and Thorchain. And to take it one step further, they are now dissolving their corporate structure and becoming a DAO. So they will not, in about a year's time, they will not exist legally. So they're not engaged in any activity that is regulated, and they are not a company that can be regulated. And so I've been following it pretty closely. I actually attended one of their governance meetings yesterday, and offered a little support in terms of they're just starting to form their DAO, and they're going through all the same hurdles that everyone goes through, particularly in terms of communication. So I had a chance to get on their stage and introduce our concept of our VIP bot for our VIP room, which is based on merit of our token, and they were really intrigued by that idea. In fact, I think that more than likely, I will be helping them probably convert our VIP bot to work with their ERC20 token, but the idea is the same. And so I'm excited to partner with them and to work with them. They have money and expertise, and from what I know of Eric, his ethos is very well aligned with our ethos within this community. So there's a natural fit there. So I'm very excited. And then also MakerDAO, which started out as a DAO and then became a corporate entity, is now unwinding their corporate structure and becoming a full DAO again. And I'm not following that quite as closely, but I am encouraged. Like so these are, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. And so I think that this is the beginning of a trend where you're going to see businesses that are operating in good faith, but are tired of the onerous requirements of regulators, are literally dissolving their corporate structure to become DAOs. It's an interesting move, and I don't know how that's how it's going to play out, but it's definitely entertaining to watch.
Well, I think you're going to see that from multiple angles, right? Because a lot of people don't understand the corporation was invented by the government as basically arms of the government, right? If you go back and you study this,
like deputized. I like that word.
And what it does is it removes blame. Like there's so many people that are like, oh, the corporations are to blame, but because these corporate entities were created, if I have a corporation and I go pollute your river, you can sue the corporation, but nothing happens to me. Mm-hmm. I don't get held to account for my actions. And there's a moral responsibility there. And as I hope we progress as humanity and our consciousness progresses, I hope to see that not only do people create these DAOs or dissolve these corporations because of regulations, but they also dissolve them for moral accountability to say, you know what? I am going to be responsible for the things I make and the things I do in this world. And that could be dangerous to me, but my integrity and my moral character matters more to me than that veil of protection that I can have, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you're going to start to see a movement of that. So like I would be more willing to buy something from a company whose CEO, or maybe not a CEO anymore, because we don't know where this is going, whose leader has that standing. I'd say, yeah, I want to buy from that guy. He's got integrity, and I want to be a part of that.
That's one of the big paradigm changes that I'm optimistic about, is like, instead of a CEO directing a corporation, which, could be like the corporation can die, but there's almost never, a repercussion for the CEO who actually made the decision. Now, in the case of Shapeshift, Eric Voorhees, who was the CEO, he's only going to have like 5% or less of the total token supply. So he's no longer a CEO. He's an influential member. And what this does is it, instead of this sort of failed veil of protection that corporations offer and all the social issues that's raised over the last 100 years, now these corporations, or these new corporations, these DAOs, they're now like guided by the wisdom of the crowds. So even if one person who, say, has 5% of the token supply, which is significant, feels very strongly and wants to do one thing, and it turns out to be, have negative repercussions, it probably won't happen because it's now in order to take action, the DAO has to have, several people who agree that action's the right one to take. And so that's what I like is there's this notion that the people who are affected by a decision should have a proportional say in the making of that decision. And corporations do not play by that rule at all, but these DAOs do. And so I'm very encouraged by that.
Well, and what we're seeing, right? I think people don't understand because we've always had corporations for our lives, right? But if you look at history and you see how it comes from feudalism to mercantilism to the big libertarian liberty movement of the 1700s, and then you have the revolutions that happened through the late 1700s, early 1800s. You don't understand that corporations haven't really been around as long as we think they are, and they aren't this ubiquitous way of running a company. And so we may find better solutions. We may evolve beyond there. But if we never say that there are other ways of doing things, we'll always stay in this one way of doing it. And so that's part of what we're here to do, is say, are there better ways to do this? And then another thing you run into is now you're forced, like Eric, he's forced to go by his good ideas and his ability to convince people they're good ideas, right? Mm-hmm. So your leaders, instead of being people that are coerced in by money of corporations, or, even in politics, the same thing goes. Now your leaders are genuine leaders, people that have good ideas, have the ability to execute, or can identify good ideas and have the ability to bring other people on board with those and help synergistically make those things happen. And what's great about that too is if you don't like the idea, you can walk away. That's fine. And right now, unfortunately, we live in a world where if you don't like some of the ideas, depending on where you live, you can't walk away. Good luck. Good luck trying to walk away. And we're trying to work for a world where freedom of association happens and is a good thing. And I think that's what we're seeing with these DAOs. And I hope to see that with companies and corporations. And yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Right on. All right, well, we're at an hour and 20 minutes. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up?
It's late for Stoyan over there. He's probably ready to get to bed.
Yeah, we always appreciate you making it, Stoyan. In fact, since you two or the three of us seem to be the regular attendees here, I think it would be appropriate for us to change the time to accommodate Stoyan a little better. So let's have that discussion. I mean, I know, Stoyan, you're a night owl anyway, so you let us know what you prefer, and we'll try and work around that.
It's not so bad. If it can be a 1 hour earlier, will be better. But yeah.
Or would a nighttime broadcast be better for you too, like a nighttime our time?
No, I cannot. I'm on work, so I cannot participate during the day. So these hours are not so bad. Just if it can be 1 hour early, I will be happy. If no, current one, I can do this.
I can make 10 work. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You're ahead of me. So it's really, I'm getting the short end of the stick on that one. But yeah, I can make that work.
Is it too early for you now? Or?
Well, I'm a pretty early riser, so it's not that bad. I certainly like having that extra hour to mentally prepare, but I can make it work. I can definitely make it work.
No, then just keep it like this one. It's not so.
Okay.
I'm always this hour, almost wake up, like
yeah.
wake up. So yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Great session, guys. Appreciate your attendance. And I'm just telling Aaron before he went on air, I'm gonna add a section to the psfoundation.cash website where you can. I'll start posting these videos so that people can sort of watch the older ones if for some reason they would want to.
And I do have a bunch of them recorded for those that are watching. I need to get them up on Odyssey. I'll try to do that this week. And I could probably send those to you too, in case you want to store them in a different way. And if I don't know if you want to use the YouTube reel or if you want to use your own.
Well, I'm thinking about
So
Web3.storage uploading the videos
there you
to
go.
Filecoin.
There you go. Then you just need a player. That's not too hard. So JS Player is a good one, open source one. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, I haven't. I like converting everything to MP4 if it's possible. That seems to be the most universal format.
Yeah, JS Players. It's just a JavaScript plugin player that's customizable and open source, and it will run MP4s. So, being open source, I figure it's right up your alley. So
yeah, totally.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit the transition for the outro. Thank you for all of you that have been watching. Oh, wait, we do have some stuff in the chat. We should cover that real quick before we go. Marco Monterio Trejo, I hope I said your name right. Technology will always benefit their users and society in general. Thank you all for working in a better society. We really appreciate it, man. We believe in this stuff, and we believe in a society of free association and freedom from the threat of coercion and violence. And that is what we're working towards here. Dean Cook, you might be able to use an NFT to swap coins.
That's actually a good. I've been thinking along those lines too, because of the swap protocol. I mean, if you can represent something with a token, then you can use a swap protocol to trustlessly trade it.
Yeah. So, yeah, Dean, good suggestion, and we will be looking into that. I don't know if Dean or Marco, if you're part of the Telegram group, but you can find us at Permissionless Software Foundation. Or is it just PSF on Telegram?
That's a good question. If you go to psfoundation.cash, scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's a link to our Telegram room.
I think I can share the group in the chat. Yeah, it's the PSF, Permissionless Software Foundation group, and I'm going to copy the link and drop it into the YouTube for you guys.
Yeah, go for it.
So
yeah, it's permissionless_software on Telegram.
Yeah. Yep, permissionless_software. That's in the chat for you guys. Dean and Marco, thank you very much for contributing in the chat. And anybody else that's watching, please chat with us. And at the end, during this time, we're going to read your chats on air and we're going to talk to you about it. So, all right. And I think that's it for today. I don't see anything more in the chat. So I think we can go ahead and hit the outro, and we'll see